documenting the Nigerian story.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak, and we'll be taking a look at a review of the papers. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director, Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio. He'll be taking a look at the stories with us in the studio. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here again.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story here says consumers groan over epileptic power supply. It has the riders that says situation worsening heat, access to water amid Ramadan. Muslim clerics, faithful, accuse discos of sabotage. Electricity companies blame low allocation from national grid. You'd find that on page 4. The pictorial shows you children celebrating at the playground, basically at the parks during Easter. Also, you have above the lead story, arrest of Kano singers escorts, police commercialization responsible for abuse on page 11. $22 million Calabar Channel dredging, Intel's contracts cost my job, Hadiza Bala on page 19. World Bank to advocate debt restructuring for developing countries on page 19 as well. Now you have below the pictorial, resident doctors reject bill mandating 5-year service for doctors. You'd find that on page 5. How to secure your bank account from fraudsters on page 20. Buhari embarks on 8-day visit to Saudi Arabia today on page 6. Bear attacks as sacrifice for new Nigeria, Obi tells supporters on page 10. All right, these are the main stories on the Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says APC kicks as Northern senators insist on Senate presidency. We have a first rider that says Ndume, Kanu, Niger senators poised to contest, says Senate needs competent hands. And the second rider, any Muslim aspiring to be Senate president lacks respect for constitution. This is coming from the vice chairman of the party. And then we have the third rider which says APC yet to decide on zoning, but won't allow another Saraki Dogara scenario, says spokesperson. And then beneath that, we have a pictorial of kids celebrating the Easter celebration which just ended. And we have a caption that says, Easter, Lagos FCT residents celebrate, grateful for surviving cash crunch. Beneath that, we have enumerators indicted for sexual harassment will be dismissed, NPC. Please arrest suspect in Instagram cloth vendor's death. We also have Nigerian unemployment rate to hit 41% in 2023. This is according to KPMG. And just above the masthead, we have Buhari should suspend fuel subsidy removal, declare marketers. We also have UK restriction can't stop doctors' migration. This is coming from NMA and the Association of Resident Doctors. Finally, on the front page of the Punch, we have port reconstruction will cost $800 million, says NPA boss. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning, where the lead story there says APC INEC to poll tribunal, Obi's petition a waste of time. It has the rider that says LP's candidate was PDP member when he picked ticket. Election conducted in compliance with Electoral Act agency, insist. Now you find above the masthead, the Bola Ajibola I knew, that's Afe Babalola saying, cash flow from banks still low, says NLC. Pre-poll, how Tinubu scaled 18 landmines in court. NMA seeks better environment for doctors, others to operate. You would also find at the very beneath there, suspected Yahoo boy lynched in Ondo for crushing two to death. So these are the main stories here on the Nation newspaper.
Over now to This Day newspaper. It has a lead story that says, with 50 days to go, Buhari defends choice of service chiefs. And there's a rider there that says, knocks cooker again. Insists clearly cooks only bad news. We also have wanton killings remain Buhari's lowest points, says additional. Still for the lead story, the third rider says his ailment was a setback, presidency admits. And above that, we have, this is coming from Obi, mission to rescue Nigeria will come to fruition. And then a rider there, Clark, coming from Clark, Lai Mohammed's US trip increasing political tension. And above that, INEC replies APP, says electronic collation of results not mandatory. And above the masthead, we have Tinubu Obi eulogize Afenifere leader Ayo Adebanjo at 95. The first rider, he's been consistent in fight for social justice, says President-elect. And the second rider, he has no bone of bigotry in him, LP presidential candidate attest. And then we have IMF, World Bank urge Nigeria, others to provide targeted financing to SMEs. These are the major stories on This Day newspaper for today.
All right, and on the Guardian newspaper this morning, you see the stories. Nigeria's industrial base weaker over poor credit support from banks on page 6. Buhari undertakes last official trip to Saudi Arabia, salutes Dangote at 66. At 95, struggle continues for a better Nigeria, says Adebanjo. World Bank sees 2% output growth in 2023. At 80, Biden considers re-election in 2024. Private school operators and burden of multiple charges. These are the main stories on The Guardian today.
Now let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. It has a lead story that says APC are daggers drawn over zoning of NAS leadership. The first rider, Lukman Ndomaegba, asks lawmakers to be fair to all zones. We also have Izunazor to slug it out with Kalu in Southeast. EFCC declines comment on monitoring dollar-carrying aspirants. And above that, we have 48 days to go. Presidency defends PMB's performance. And above that, Khan demands apology over peak milk advert on Good Friday. We also have insecurity remain focused, Army Chief tells troops. Beneath that, NCAA grants Eagles ADC may fly as national carrier. And just beneath that, police arrest 40 suspected members of criminal syndicate in Abuja. And just above the masthead, we have Tambuwal petitions INEC over relisting of polling units for rerun. And finally, on the Leadership, bill to halt doctors' immigration more than day slavery. This is coming from the National Association of Resident Doctors. These are the major stories on Leadership for today.
All right. Now let's get some perspectives to some of the stories that we have this morning from our guest reviewer, Dr. Theophilus. Quite a number of stories here this morning. We'll begin with the Daily Trust, where we have a story there talking about this issue, this bill that is proposing 5-year service for medical doctors before they can leave Nigeria. So the doctors, the resident doctors, are rejecting that bill, and there has been a lot of uproar, really, trailing this bill as introduced.
Well, as you said, it's becoming very controversial because, to me, that bill is quite unnecessary. You know, if you look at the exodus of medical doctors from Nigeria, you discover that they are underutilized. You know, this is a country that people struggle to gain admission to medical schools. And after, they have struggled to obtain their, degrees, they will hardly get a place to work. As we speak, there are thousands of graduates from our medical schools who have not done their housemanship in large numbers. And they go from hospital to hospital, especially government hospitals, where they can be properly trained. They don't have placement. Now, apart from that, we discovered that even the remuneration, is very, very weak. Medical doctors, what they receive as salaries, is so meager to the kind of effort they put in. You need to go to the hospital in Nigeria and see how medical doctors work. Sincerely, they are overworked. Many of them are overworked. I remember in 2012, when I took my father to the National Hospital Abuja, I thought that, my work as a journalist was more tedious, but I discovered that of a medical doctor was much more tedious, because you have to think, you have to adjust your thinking as you meet each patient. But then what you are paid for this mental, work that you do is not much.
Well, Dr. Abba, all of these arguments that you're putting forward are arguments that have consistently been put forward by the doctors and a lot of other Nigerians. And I do agree that you cannot stop a citizen who wants to leave the country. I agree. But there are some persons that, since this bill came up, that are saying, well, there are lots of doctors that are sponsored by states. There are lots of doctors that get scholarship to study medicine. And that some people are saying that maybe the bill should be targeted at them, that, okay, if a state sponsors you, or if you went to study medicine through scholarship, you should be able to stay okay for 5 years before you leave the country. There are some people arguing that.
Well, the argument, is right. If the state government sponsored you, you must have entered into an agreement with the state government. It's okay. After my service, after my studies, I will stay for some number of years. But what I'm actually driving at is this. If you are saying medical doctors should not leave Nigeria because they are medical doctors, why would you allow accountants to leave? Why would you allow IT experts to leave? As we speak, many IT experts in Nigeria have left the country. They've gone to other parts of the world to seek a greener pasture. So you cannot say medical doctors should not go. But my argument is this: we need medical personnel. We did an investigation last year into this issue, and we discovered that, many medical doctors are complaining that even in their areas of specialization, they don't have access to, good equipment, that's facilities. They don't have access to modern knowledge, latest innovations in these fields. And unless you go out there, you go to Europe or to America, to other, even Asian countries, you don't have access to these things. So you are just, using the knowledge that you acquire from the university, just within Nigeria. We are not improving on your knowledge. You are not improving on your skills, even as a medical doctor. So the ball is in the court of government. Instead of building gigantic hospitals, we need equipment. We need we need the kind of facilities that will make a Nigerian to go to a hospital, a general hospital, for instance, and say, okay, I was there, I was examined, there was investigation done on my health, problem, and I'm satisfied that, look, even the treatment I'm receiving is the right treatment.
And this is coming at a time when countries like the UK, for instance, is banning, social welfare firms and organizations, health and social welfare firms, from recruiting health personnel, medical personnel coming from Nigeria, because the World Health Organization has now said that Nigeria now falls under the list of countries where there's urgent need for more medical personnel and the rest of them. So we have need for them here domestically, but then we do not have what they need to operate and to serve, as appropriate. And countries like UK are saying, don't come here. So at the end of the day, what are we looking at? Redundancy?
No, actually, what has happened is that it's not only Nigeria that exports, let me use that word now, I don't know whether it's the right word, medical doctors to UK. India does so. Pakistan also, Then you have people from maybe some other Asian countries who exports medical doctors to the UK. In fact, the number of Indians in UK, the ratio, is higher than the ratio of Nigerian doctors in the UK. But there has been this deliberate attempt. I don't know if the right word to use is to blackmail Nigerians who go to the UK. Not only medical doctors, but even nurses who go to the UK. Everybody is saying, oh, we have no need for doctors in Nigeria, meanwhile they are living in Nigeria. But nobody is talking about the fact that the government, the authorities are not doing the right thing. You need to ensure that these people maximize their knowledge. You need to ensure that these people, keep pace with the changes, in the sector. We need to ensure that, look, even when you go to the hospital, you have access to, to drugs that
Doctor,
need to,
are you very sure that even if all of these things you're mentioning are provided, Nigerian doctors wouldn't want to leave? I mean, people the grass always looks greener at the other side, right? So there are no matter what you pay, there are some people that will still not be comfortable with that, and they'll still want to leave the country.
No, but actually there are many medical doctors who want to return to Nigeria. Many of them. Why do they want to return? Because they've been exposed to so much, and they think, well, let's go back and replicate these things in our country. It's not like everybody just wants to. Even when they go, they want to come and help. But the atmosphere, the environment, for them to practice what they have is not there. Now, if you go to, a typical Nigerian hospital, and you can't even conduct some tests, so the doctor will be using, is it like this? You just have to go online. It's okay. Is it, how do you feel? He said, this is how I feel. It's okay. Let's see. They Google some things, read some medical, so it's okay. I think this is it. There's no precision. You understand? So you are giving drugs, and even this doctor is not really very sure. I remember my younger brother had an experience late last year. Now, he went to a hospital in Nigeria, a federal government hospital in Abuja here, and they gave him, a drug. And, when early in the morning, I did not even, he just called me. Say, brother, I say, how are you? Say, I'm not fine, no. Please, come. I will die now. I say, oh, why would you die? He said, I'm feeling so pain. I drove to the place, picked him from that place, took him to another hospital, and by the time they said, okay, he said, I complained about this, and this is the drug that was given to me. The doctor in the other hospital shouted, said, this drug is not just administered. You don't just administer this drug, because it is, I don't want to use the word fatal, but this drug can even kill. So when we're reading through what the drug, the side effects of the drug, it said that, look, this can even lead to death. What did they do? They don't have to flush this drug out of his system. But the person who gave him this drug gave it to him because he felt that, oh, well, we cannot do any test now, but I know that no matter what is there that is disturbing you, this will clear it. And that is not how, these things are done in developed societies, because medicine has gone to the level of precision. And now in Nigeria, you go to a government hospital, the machines are not working. If you go to many of the people who have to undergo chemotherapy or physiotherapy, radiotherapy, they will tell you that the machine is not working. They will tell you that, we don't have the screening machine here and so the doctors now have to depend on internet. They have to depend on maybe talking to other doctors, consulting with others in order to prescribe. So that is not how these things are done.
So you will argue that we need the medical doctors travel abroad, even if it is just for the experience sake.
Okay, it's good for them to travel abroad, but if you want to stop them from traveling abroad, then you have to do a whole lot of things. It's not just building hospitals and saying, no, it's the achievement of my government. There must be equipment in these hospitals.
And since we've been talking about the exodus of doctors, and this has been going on for a while, have you seen any deliberate effort, maybe on the part of the government, to change the narrative, as it were?
Well, I've not seen the government doing much, except maybe, Buhari was talking about the State House Clinic now being available for others to use and all this and all that. I've seen some, but most of the time is mainly political, where you see government who put up structures and give it an attractive name. And so this is what the referral hospital, this, and then when you get there, it's called that the systems are not working, the equipment don't work. So I'm saying that instead of stopping these people, make this place attractive for them to operate. You know, we need these doctors in Nigeria, yes, but then don't restrict them. Make the facilities available and make sure that they are paid. There was this story of one hospital in North Central State. There was only one cancer doctor. How do you call them? Oncologist. Only one oncologist in that hospital. You know, he was the only one. So anybody who came, he was the one attending to them. Last year he left because he said, look, he was wasting away. You know, the knowledge he had was already fading. You know, like if you have a PhD, say your PhD is worth 5 years. If you are not building on it, then you are losing. I mean, the value of what you have learned, your research is
updating knowledge.
Updating knowledge. So you are not updating knowledge. You are only here treating people without equipment. You know, so he left, and that is the condition that many doctors, you know, are facing in Nigeria today. You know, but you know, it's only the private hospitals that are trying to bridge the gap. But then, they can. I mean, how many Nigerians can afford to pay for treatment at private hospitals?
Okay. Now, we're having another story that is projecting 41% unemployment rate for Nigeria in 2023. That's KPMG now. That there are reports saying that Nigerian unemployment rate is to hit 41% in 2023, according to KPMG. So that's almost half of the population unemployed. I mean, how do you react to this?
Well, it's a serious issue because if you look at how others do it, you know, like I think 2 days ago I was watching CNN and we were talking about America adding 230-something thousand jobs in the month of February or so. You know, in Nigeria we don't really have the data of who is losing his job or who is getting new jobs. The data is not there. But you know, as far as we know, you see, the industries which are supposed to mop up people from the streets are not really functioning. We don't have industries that will mop up people from the street. The reason why, you know, in China, you know, people go to China or people import a lot from China because the industries are working. If you go to several European countries, the industries are working. If you go to America used to outsource their industries, but now they say, okay, no, we want to build these industries in America. If we can't do it in America, we'll take it to Mexico, which is a next door neighbor. As long as we don't have industries, there will be unemployment. And then there are low-hanging sectors. You know, last we were discussing the palm oil sector here. There are low-hanging sectors that we need to develop. But you see, there's no deliberate effort to develop those sectors. For instance, when government pumped a lot of money into rice farming, a lot of young people went into rice farming. You know, but then even the processing, you know, there is a lot of space in processing. Even okay.
And I mean, isn't it ironical though that this administration will be rounding up in about 50 days, and this statistics is coming at this time. For a government that promised to take so many Nigerians out of poverty to create jobs, how do you put this side by side, this rating at this point?
Now, it's an indictment on the government to say that, look, you didn't keep your promises. You know, because we know that, you see, creating jobs or getting anything done is not by making statements. There must be strategies in place. You know, the unfortunate thing that I have seen in Nigeria is that, you see, we see a lot of short-term measures instead of long-term measures. You know, so when things are not done on long-term basis, you cannot achieve much. You know, I keep talking about maybe I don't know whether my thinking is not modern, but you can't have Nigeria with opportunity for construction. You know, roads need to be constructed, bridges need to be constructed, houses need to be constructed, and what government does is to give these things out on contract. When we have thousands of civil engineers who have graduated from universities, These engineers don't have jobs. So why must you give everything out as contract to companies when you know that if you give these guys this job and proper supervision and give them salaries, they will be able to do it? Now, if you go to, almost every sector, if you go to schools, it's go that in some schools you have one teacher taking 2 classes. In this country, you see overcrowded classrooms, but then we are not recruiting teachers to fill these vacancies. So there are vacancies. We are talking about medical doctors as well. Many medical doctors are unemployed. Some of those who go out, it's not really because they really wanted to go, but they don't have jobs in Nigeria. They go to private hospitals where they are exploited.
So Nigeria is not in lack of manpower.
We don't lack manpower, but we have not created opportunity for them, to operate. So you see, there are many sectors are underdeveloped, and I'm thinking that the next administration should think about developing the sectors instead of thinking about I don't know, maybe
this goes back to last week the Daily Trust did an editorial on the embargo on tertiary institution, on employment of lecturers into tertiary institutions, and the editorial talked about the damage, the harm that was causing. And like you just mentioned, a teacher taking 2 classes. So there's actually the space to bring in these people, but we're not bringing them in.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why you have this unemployment. Okay.
All right, now let's move away from that. Talking about politics now, we have so many leads, or I would say titles, talking about the conflicts, if you like, or crisis within the APC about the leadership of the Senate or the National Assembly. The lead story on the Punch says APC kicks as Northern senators insist on Senate presidency. So obviously the whole issue about zoning and the rest of them, we are still at it, even after the general elections. Now we are moving into deciding the leadership of the National Assembly, and it's still a big issue.
Well, my worry is that there's a word that we have thrown away. In the 2023 election, this word called inclusivity. Now, you can't run a system, a country that is so diverse like Nigeria, and throw away inclusivity. Somebody was talking about competence. There's no part of this country that you will not find a competent person. There's this book, a collection of essays written by former CBN governor, former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. Very interesting book. He said, look, if you need the best medical doctor from any ethnic community, from any state in Nigeria, you get. If you need the best person who can become the Senate president from any ethnic community, from any state in Nigeria, any geopolitical zone, you will get. If you need any president, the president of Nigeria, from any geopolitical zone in Nigeria, you will find. So also it goes with religion. So if you say, okay, I need a Christian, I need a pagan, let me say a pagan who can be Senate president, you will get. So this idea of saying competence and then use that word to edge out some persons, because if you say this guy, this is the only competent person, who says so? There are competent people all over this country. There's nothing that you want to do in Nigeria, you don't have someone that is competent to do it. So I'm thinking that, look, if the National Assembly will go the way of the presidency, the reason why we had crisis, let me use the word now, during the election, was because of the Muslim ticket. There was a kind of protest. Some of the votes that people are complaining about, they were actually protest votes. So if you now go to the National Assembly and say, okay, we need a competent Senate president, so anybody can come from anywhere. And now because it's a game of number, we know what will happen. You understand? Because if it's a game of number, we know some people who have more numbers than others. And so they can come up with anybody and play. So we just want a competent person. I don't think that is the right thing to do. You see, in 1999, the PDP came up with a very good idea, which means you zone. And that zoning brings people into the system. At the party level, at the executive level, at the level of legislature, and even judiciary. I don't know much about the judiciary. If you don't ensure inclusivity, there will be crisis. People will feel left out. People will feel that, look, they are being neglected. People will feel that, oh, they are not benefiting from the corporate existence of Nigeria. And I think that the mistake that the National Assembly will make under whatsoever guise is to use the word competence as if there's competence in one part of the country and there's no competence in another part. We have competent people in all parts of this country. And so there must be inclusivity. And that is what I advocate. You have to make sure that people, even women, I was shocked that only 3 women are going to be in the Senate. So how can only 3 women be in the Senate? You know, it's unacceptable. There has to be a change of the way we recruit people into the National Assembly to ensure that we have diverse kinds of people in the National Assembly. By the time you have only riffraffs, those who can buy votes, those who can buy the people, who can buy political parties, you know, in government, there's nothing we can achieve because they don't know what we feel. But if you have people from diverse background, they'll say, okay, these are the implications of this policy in this area among my people, among the people of so and so interest. But by that you gather people of the same mind, you know, in the National Assembly, the laws that they will make will not make any sense because they are making this law to fulfill a particular agenda.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director of Daily Trust Foundation. Thank you for your insights on some of the stories that we've looked at on our review this morning. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take a short breather, and then at the top of the hour, we'll take a look at the headlines again and also other discussions on the program talking about the proposal made or suggestions about having the general elections in one day. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a party look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that